back. This is the poet Is a Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 38, Fight Against the Narrative. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing and keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
Dunamis, how's it hanging?
Oh man, it's been a really good week. I've been busy, I've been working hard. There's a lot going on in the news, or maybe there's not, because there's sort of I've ignored a lot of it. It's crazy, the stuff that I've heard about. But anyways, before we get into it, how's your week been?
It's been relaxing. It's been calm. The reunion, for y'all who have been following these episodes, I had my high school reunion last week and it went very well. Turned out to be everything I wanted it to be. So that's done and over with, and I've been doing production here, and I finished up the last track here not so long ago. So I've been taking a break, man. I've been staying off my phone a little bit more, staying off social media for extended periods of time, and just enjoying present moments. And I've stayed off of social media. However, I have now delved into more of what's going on around the world. And like you said just a second ago, I don't know if there's really much more that's going on around the world other than the same stuckery that's been going on.
Yeah, it's crazy because just for this episode, I did decide I've you let me just go back to like 2017-ish. If we were to go back to like 2017, that was a period of time in my life when I felt like it was really important to stay informed, and I would watch NBC Nightly News most nights, and oftentimes in the morning I'd watch either Fox and Friends or my local, news, Good Morning kind of program, and then I would also catch some kind of Fox evening program. So I was watching NBC News and Fox News every day to make sure I was catching both sides of the argument, both sides of what's going on. And I say that to say that I do none of that now at all. But for the sake of this week and what we're talking about, I did watch me some NBC Nightly News. I did watch some Fox News again, and they're both talking about completely different things. So we could just start there. Like, depending on what side you're coming from, you're probably listening to completely different news stories.
Right. And that, dude, it's so night and day. And who's to say who's night, who's to say who's day? But I can really only watch these newscasters for maybe a couple minutes, and I get the information that I sought for, and I make my own assessments. And it's just been so much worse than any other presidency that I've seen, just because of how polarized this whole Trump presidency has been. And the one thing that I've noticed is it doesn't matter what Trump does. If he does something good, if he stops a couple wars, few wars, he's gonna get harassed. If he doesn't, then it was a failed attempt, right? Trump's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's more of I've not seen media this bad in a really, really long time, man. It's terrible. It is, because like you said, I want to be informed, and it just seems like it was many moons ago that I would get on and watch TV and watch the news to try to soak in some kind of information. It's like I go away, like I steer away from it. Honestly, it's funny to say, but I think there's more value in watching The Simpsons than there is watching the news.
Yeah. Oh, I love The Simpsons, man.
Family Guy, I think that South Park, I think they do a way better job at depicting what's going on in the world because they don't discriminate against anybody. Because everybody sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree completely. I think we've sort of reached a point in time in history where maybe it makes more sense to turn off the news and listen to music and spend time with family and listen to the birds. I do think that there's a certain amount of what's going on once you start to recognize that any amount of it is being fabricated in order to harm your mental health, then if nothing else, it starts to make more sense just to turn it off, right? And not pay attention. There's very little of what goes on, of what's reported on Fox News or CNN that is going to affect me personally. What does affect me personally is more often laws that are being passed at a state level, and that's something that I probably need to get some kind of an RSS feed or what is that nowadays? You get some kind of newsletter or something.
Yeah.
There has got to be. Now, we've talked about Fightcast being something eventually where we want to pay attention. We're aware of what's going on, and so we'd like to be a source. But how do we fight against the narrative? I think we do that by being more informed. But how can you be informed?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would say, just to give a nice shot here, the best way to be informed is to be aware, right? What we just said. And just being aware in the sense of you see what's going on in the world, you see what's going on around you, you see how other people are being affected, you see how other people are letting other people affect them. And the best thing that you can do is just be aware of how emotions are shifting and not letting those emotions engulf you and your thought, and it's okay not to care. Just like, we talked offline here that some of this stuff, man, I like the Cracker Barrel thing, for example. I know we initially said that we weren't going to say anything, but I couldn't help but say something about it. I think that is the most outrageously redundant thing that you could report on the news. Nobody cares. And like we said offline, the only people that would care would be the people that had been going there their entire lives and have known this to be one way. So for them, it's just this fear of change. So whatever narrative they put that on is on them. But at the end of the day, times are literally changing. And we can say that as a fact because it's a different year every year. So, 1259 last year is not the same as 1259 this year. And 1259 last night is not the same as 1259 last night. So those are like, and you just be that literal about it. And I think that once we really take things at a literal value, then I feel like that disassociation will be, it'll be easier. It'll be easier. I don't, Cracker Barrel was already decent. It was all right. Like, I don't care about the logo. I really don't. Nor did I care about the Land O'Lakes thing. I didn't care about that. I didn't care about the Washington football team, the Redskins. Oops. I didn't care about that. You know,
Aunt Jemima, they did Aunt Jemima too, didn't they?
yeah, Aunt Jemima. That I didn't care about any of that. It just all of that stuff to me is just distractions from the bigger picture.
Distraction, man, that's the word that I was just thinking, is just because it's all this stuff. I mean, Cracker Barrel, they changed their logo. Who really cares? They report it in the news like it's a big deal, like people are offended, like people are really upset. And
Right.
sure, there's probably 3 people out there that are really upset, that want to post.
Heartbroken.
They're heartbroken about it. You know, I mean, good Lord. Most when people recognize that 98% of us sit somewhere in the middle, and there's really only 1% that's fringe on one side and then 1% that's fringe on the other side, but they scream the entire time, those fringe sides. And so you end up with people on the left thinking that people on the right are that 1% that are just nutcases, and you have the same thing. You have the rest of the people on the right thinking that the left is that 1% fringe nutcases. And
Right.
really, the I want to say that when I was a software engineer, I got very good at working in places where there were people that maybe I wasn't going to agree with politically, or spiritually. There are a lot of atheist liberals in software development. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is most of them are pretty decent people. Most of them are nice. They're really great people. And if you can learn how to get along with people you don't agree with, that's kind of the beginning of a lot of what we've talked about in here. It's a beginning of empathy. It's a beginning of understanding people that aren't like you. And so it's I think that the narrative only works in so much as we let ourselves feed into some tribe. You know, if we watch one form of news and allow it to feed our mindset and our ideas, we really have to stop doing that.
I had a verse in this upcoming song, or I have a verse in a song on the upcoming album that said that if we were God, then we wouldn't have to be godlike. And when we talked offline, we were talking about the Bible and we were talking about peace. And there's never going to be said peace as long as you're here in this world. And I know we also said too that we weren't going to be Debbie Downers, but best believe y'all, I'm coming from an optimistic mindset. And I apologize if it seems like I can't talk. I really haven't socialized with people in several days aside from being at the reunion, so I apologize. But there's the peace, the the peace of mind that we can take from this is just being being true to ourselves, being true as an individual. There is some peace in that. And notice when I say some peace, right? Because it's not all going to be peace. And going back to the news, it's you get a little bit of information for a minute, and then they go into these narratives about the people. And when it gets personal, when it starts to get personal, when they start to personally attack the other person, it loses credibility completely. And what I end up hearing is, and I've grown up, I grew up in a family that was primarily Democrats, and as I got older, I started to converse with a lot more Republicans. It seemed like, and ironically, a lot of my friends are liberals, so I've got I've got a melting pot. So I get a lot of perspectives. Movement is what I am happy to see in this world. What it looks like on the other side, we don't know. But in the meantime, while things are moving, I'm going to move as well because, hey, I'm a human. I had to move. And I'm going to do what makes sense for me. And going back into the fear, just to kind of sum it up, this again correlates to our earlier episodes. For example, Fight for Community, where all of these things that you think about now were all things that were thoughts from other people, or and just over time, your community will embed these different codes in your mind to have certain emotions triggered by certain things that are happening. And it's gotten to a point now where it's the trigger finger so sensitive that just hearing the word Trump triggers people. That's how deep this gets. And that is and dude, and I don't even like to say the word, but I think that's the scary part. Honestly, I think that's the scary part. And how we can be controlled by just saying somebody's name and that triggering you.
Yeah.
It what else? What else? Right? Like ketchup triggers me. So I can only imagine what other people are feeling about other things.
Oh, did you speak? You said ketchup.
Yeah.
I think I posted on Facebook here this last week about how I think it's like 3 tablespoons of ketchup has more sugar than a glazed donut.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting to me. God,
It's
ew. So hey, real quick, man, to all of the viewers out there, and you can whatever, you can give me the rage emoji.
fight
Fight me on
fight us in the comments.
fight us in the comments. There is nothing okay with taking a ton of that red sugar and putting it on your french fries and then taking the french fry and dipping it in more ketchup. I'm gonna gag right now.
That's hilarious, dude.
It's not okay. It's not okay. Red sugar, what? And then they try to get us with green during Shrek and purple during Shrek. No, no,
Mm.
no, no, no. It's ridiculous. Just give me a cake at that point.
The Oh man, I don't even want to go down the food rabbit hole right now because it's so
Not
disgusting.
again.
There's stuff that I could say that would potentially get me in trouble too. So
Oh no.
but I just my thoughts on things. They're not. It has nothing to do with anything. But it's speaking of thoughts, and we spent a lot of time here right now talking about Trump and the triggering and the fear and everything that's going on with the left and alligator Alcatraz, and yet we haven't even mentioned all of the gloriousness. If you go over to Fox News, I mean, Trump just ended the Russia-Ukraine war. So
Oh my
I,
gosh.
I
Did he? 3 times.
it's again, we want to wake people up again to the fact that there's narratives, and you just have to be aware of what the sources of the information that you're getting it from. Because I tell you what, when I started listening to NBC Nightly News with the lens, I would try to listen for trigger words, just not even paying any attention to what they're talking about. I would listen for words like, um, suddenly, or or words like engulfed, or words, you know what I'm saying? You get these
Yeah.
words that are just very explosive, sort of inflammatory words. And
Right.
when you start listening for those adjectives as you're listening to a program like NBC Nightly News, you'll be surprised. And it started to wake me up to the fact that that is exactly what it was. It was psychological conditioning that they're doing in that program. And it's the exact same thing on the other side. When you watch Fox News, there is the exact same thing. It's just it takes a different shape and a different form. So with Russia Ukraine, I don't want to diminish what progress has actually happened, right? There's, as far as we know, there's a meeting that happened in Alaska. There seems to be a meeting that has happened with leaders from Europe and Zelensky, and now they want to meet Zelensky and Putin. So everyone is very excited for peace. It sounds like there's still fighting going on. And so,
Yeah.
how much of this is narrative, man, and how much of this is real and legit?
Right. And what really makes me wonder is we've got this front headline news, and those Epstein files, where have like that headline news, where like it went away, or like is it ever coming back? Did it exist? Like yeah, it definitely existed, and that's what makes it difficult. You know, with the whole Epstein files thing for me was just a bit of a slap in the face, because we as people are not stupid, and we knew what we knew what we heard. So for that to now get put to the back burner here, and I'll just say it, it's I want to know, because that's what we were promised. And number two, we already live in this sick world. So regardless if President Trump was on the list or not, I just want to know, because I don't want to support people that are like that. I really don't. And that's how deep this really, that's how deep this really gets. And I don't even think it's that deep. I need to stop talking like that. But if the CEO of, a coffee shop is involved in this stuff, I'm not buying coffee there anymore.
Yeah.
If somebody, if this shopping center, their owner or their people practice this or that and the third, and I didn't subscribe to that, I wouldn't go there anymore. I'm not giving this dollar, which in fractions is like worse than streaming income, my money. No, for what? For what? And that's why we've, for weeks and weeks on out, we've put so much emphasis on you as an individual, you guys, the people, and just having the knowledge to take care of yourself. Sovereignty. That's the word I wanted, was sovereignty. It's so crucial. It's just so crucial. It's obvious to see now that thinking isn't our own anymore. It's from others. So fear to not think like others. And there shouldn't be a fear with that. There really shouldn't. And I just think back on even earlier times when we had philosophers such as Dunamis back in the day that were standing in these sculpted areas with crowds of people, and they were listening to the teachings, and it was science, math, and spirituality. We've divided things so much, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole cry of modern America is the separation of church and state. There's someone will tell you that that's in the Constitution somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
again, we were talking earlier about how things get read in between the lines, words get inserted that were never really a part of the original word. And we were talking offline about some things, but I think that we need to be very careful going forward regarding any politicians. The one of the other things we talked about was how someone said to me that or asked me whether I should even vote. If in the future I was going to vote for the other side just out of spite because of all of this, right? We talk
Hmm.
about the Epstein files and all of that, right? It's a serious enough thing for me to throw away everything else. I mean, if you really seriously believe that Jeffrey Epstein was doing what he was doing, then you have to understand that with him dead, it does not mean that whatever he was doing has ended. It just means that there is someone else in his place now doing those things.
Right.
And if you don't think that, then you're fucking naive. Sorry.
Real. I mean, that's the truth. Shoot, man. I'm losing words just thinking about it. It's the God's honest truth. This stuff doesn't go away. People, we're all pawns in this game. And, one person gets caught up and it's to cover for another person. And I don't want to keep jumping in a rabbit hole with this one, but, that was definitely a huge disappointment for me as an American citizen and just seeing how that was handled very poorly with everybody. And to go back with what you were saying about voting versus not voting at all or voting for the other side, the one word like what really stuck out to me was the other side. Like, what is the other side? Someone explained that to me. What exactly is the other side? Republican or Democrat? Because they're both politicians at the end of the day. And
Exactly.
both of them are going to tell you that they're looking out for your best interests. And they're probably maybe I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say 20% thinking that, and the other 80% is I just need to get in the office so I can get my agendas off. And that is the vast majority of our politicians. There's not one good politician that I can think of in office. And I say that in a way where they're just politicians. That's just what it is. They're just politicians. Like we all politic on a daily basis. When we go to our jobs or working our businesses, like there's politicking going on everywhere. It's just a different kind of politics up there. And what they're talking about and what is in all of the intricacies and all of the things that we don't hear about, those are the things that I'm talking about specifically. And I'm sure people will fight me and be like, well, what if they're, doing 100 Meals on Wheels program, 3 months out of the year? Okay, great. That's good. That's that 20% that I was talking about. You know, but the other 80%, I think about foreign affairs. That's where I feel like things get really, really sticky, and that's where I feel like politicians get wrapped up the most in things. Because I think that if we were solely focused on us and our country, I think there would be less of lobbying going on. Of course, there will be, but I think it'll be more at a minimum. But I feel like because we've got foreign allies and those exchanges and those charters that we've built over decades and decades of time, those are hard sanctions to break. And that's what I'm seeing. That's what I feel like we're seeing right now as citizens of America. We're starting to see these chains start to break, and people at fear of losing a bunch of money. There was a lot of money that people made during this war. Did you think people just want to fight to kill people? No, 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 no. There's money in war. There's money in war. There's money with all of this. And I just think how many pockets got fed during this war. Again, let me stop. Let me stop. I don't want to, but I something tells me the people that follow us, Dunamis, already know what's up, and they're probably all shaking their heads like, yeah, yeah. How many pockets got fed during this war? A lot, a lot. And we're still over here looking. We're still over here and can't even buy a house. Because of the interest rates. We were just talking about that too, man. And I don't even think people really understand that portion of it. I know that's a bit minute in scale of what we're talking about, but just like looking at the interest rates too, man. I mean, where do you see the market in housing in the future? And will it be more difficult to buy a house, or will things have changed? Do you think?
In it It's really hard to say in the short term and the long term in terms of housing, just because that has everything to do with the long end of the yield curve, which is like the 10-year interest rates.
Yeah.
I know that everyone wants the Fed to cut the short-term interest rates, and I think that I mean, who really knows? You and I think that the Federal Reserve, is an abomination that never should have been conceived, and I think that the people that do their research will understand. Even the people that died on the Titanic that were related to that specific foundation of the organization of the Federal Reserve. Um, there is no reason that some group of people should control the cost of money in the United States or anywhere else. That's effectively what they're doing when they're saying they're going to change the borrowing rate. And yes, it's between banks. Yes, it's overnight hours. This stuff ripples, even the things that he says on a daily basis or weekly basis can affect the stock market up or down, based on the things that this person says. We don't live in a democracy. We don't even live in a society that's capitalist. Everyone talks about how the problems with capitalism. Well, guess what? That's not what we live in. In true capitalism, you would have free market destruction. Destruction in a good sense. Bad companies go out of business and they die. In this society, we have subsidies and all of these things that keep these companies alive that should be dead. So,
Oh,
when we talk about foreign, the foreign affairs, as you know, if there's any one word that I've ever tied myself to at all, it's libertarian. And I try to think for myself exclusively. But when you tie together the ideas behind the non-aggression pact, that fits very nicely in with foreign affairs, but it fits very nicely in with just human affairs. And that is, if you don't come over here and fuck with me, then I'm not going to go fuck with you. And I think that if we lived that way, now, like you said, there's all sorts of problems with that, because as my parents and any other baby boomer will very quickly remind you about all of the treaties that have been built up over decades, over the last 40, 50, 60 years. The US dollar's hegemony, the all of these things that make the United States the preeminent power in the world after World War II. And I hate to say it, but it's all an illusion. It's all fake. It's real in so much that we have missiles and F-16s and bombers and carriers, and we have the physical force to be able to take people out that disagree, and now they have drones that could take me out for disagreeing right at this very moment. But other than physical force, none of this system should be the way that it is. The laws of nature dictate that money should be something like gold and silver. And I'm talking just about first principles, laws of nature kind of stuff. I'm talking about thinking deeply in this philosophical way. If you go all the way deep down to I think, therefore I am, you start from these principles, and one of these principles is money. And so why should you work for something and then have that thing be changed on a daily basis based on what Jerome Powell thinks is good for the economy. Why should your dollar that you go and work for at a warehouse job? I work in a warehouse now. I used to be a software engineer. I work in a warehouse now. I love it, by the way. And I
He
do.
does.
And I earn an hourly wage, and I earn much less than a quarter of what I used to make. But I love it. And the one thing that I don't want are the dollars that I make on my hourly wage to be worth less tomorrow than they are today, because I'm not getting a raise, you know? The fact of the matter is, I don't think Jerome Powell should be changing the value of my dollars. And by lowering interest rates on the short end of the curve, what they're trying to do is make it easier for people to borrow, which is effectively, in the long term, good for risk assets, and it's a net starter of inflation. So what this means with we use that term in the last episode, I think, long and variable lags. So what basically happens is they're going to do something. They're going to cut interest rates. Everyone's assets are going to go up in value. Everyone's going to get excited. But as a result of that, inflation's going to go up, and everyone's going to have to spend more money to go to the grocery store, which makes people that don't have assets poorer. And this happens in cycles over and over and over again. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. This is how it all happens. And so I think that it needs to end. I think that they need to end the Fed. The Fed, the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. I mean, seriously, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just Google the Federal Reserve. What are they? They control the price of money. I know it sounds strange, but that is exactly what they're doing. And they are not here for your benefit. The price of money is designed, the dollar is designed to decrease in value forever to zero over time, but so slowly that you won't notice it. And it's been doing it ever since
Right.
1913.
Man, oh man. It really makes you reassess what that dollar actually does for you and what it really means. And I look at money as a means for financial freedom and being able to have freedoms to be able to just make my own schedule and spend time with my family. You know, that's what money means to me. Is just having the freedoms to be able to spend more time with the people that I care about. You know, it was never about being somewhere for 30 years and being told, having the 401k and the pension. And as 30 years goes on and progresses, now retirement age is now shifted and it's gone from, this to this. And, how discouraging would that be, especially if you were right there towards the end and then you were told that you had 5 more years. And just this whole thought of being told what days to have off. And I've said this in a few other podcasts too. There are people out there that love what they do. You just heard Dunamis say that he loves his job, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just what you have your job for. And there are a lot of people out here that have these jobs because of all these tangible things that they can never take with them. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. I love a nice charcuterie board. That's not what I'm getting at here. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. It's just those things don't define who you are as a person. My community and my people are who I care about, and those are the opinions that I cherish. Those their words. I cherish their words. More than anything. And they say money changes you. Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that it should. I think that it should, for sure. for good or bad. But for me personally, having millions of dollars in the bank just means more philanthropy and just means more, being able to build the things that we talk about. So, just with that being said, it's all in front of us, and it's more in front of us now than it's been, and it's more polarized than it's been. We have all of the resources to look these things up, and even the late adapters. I mean, it's all there. It's all there, and we can all take lessons from one another. I love talking to generations before me because it's the classic history repeating itself. They know. They don't even have to go into details when they say that because if you know, you know. And they're like, well, it looks like history's repeating itself. And they're like, yep. I mean, look at style, look at fashion, look at all of it. It's all in front of us, man. The 90s, the 80s, the music that we listen to, the hybrid music that we're listening to, you can see how things get recycled. And then look at the recycling logo.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I had a meditation here the other day about music, and I was thinking about how it's not necessarily like, yes, things definitely get recycled, but there's another force. So that's sort of the force of entropy or chaos. It'll just sort of there's no creative force behind it, so it can copy it. You can live action remake the the Little Mermaid, but you can't really come up with anything new. But then there's
Yeah.
that God creative, the creator force that comes in and does things in us. And so the interesting thing about music is when you're getting that new original thought, and shout out to RC, we had him on not too long ago and he talked about the muse, right? And you get that
Mhm.
inspiration that just comes down, and it's original, and it's specifically there for you. But when that happens, it is also within the context of everything you've ever heard before in your entire life. And so you're not recycling, but you're adding to the context of all of the music that has come before you. Like, your music would not be your music if Led Zeppelin hadn't existed, if Linkin Park hadn't existed, if any
Yeah.
any band you've ever listened to has put its imprint into you and your music. And so there's that part of it, but at the same time what you're creating is also original.
Right. Shout out to RC for that. And shout out to the muses too. When you said muse, man, I hadn't heard that word in a while. And it made me think as an artist, the muses that I've had throughout the years. And I mean, you're a musician. You know about the muses, and good gosh, man. Good gosh. And the muses come from anywhere. And I think traditionally then, and I don't know
Normally the
if it was
female variety.
yeah. I was gonna say it would be the few or people. People would be muses. That's where I was going for because I wanted to generalize it. People would be muses, and be nice to those muses too, man. You never know when you might need them again. But yeah, shout out to RC, and RC is one of those people that he's like he'll never run out of anything to say ever. Just with his involvement in governance and just his just sharpness and his just being in tune with everything. Like that's one gentleman that I just don't think will ever run out of words to say. Like he'll be 80 and he'll still have that desire to make music.
Still be
That's
dropping
just
hits.
yeah, still dropping hits, dropping bombs, bro. Still doing 420 classic mixtape
Yeah.
projects. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
yeah. But and just I went on a tangent there briefly, but RC is one of those guys that doesn't let narratives from others push him into a corner, and he's always been unapologetically him and unapologetically creative. And that's what I love about our team. That's what I love about us is the no fear zones that we have instilled within us to have 38 episodes of just pure uh, authenticity, and that's what we owe to ourselves. And in translation, it now gets conveyed to you, audience. So this is for light workers like us. This is a dream come true. This is liberating. This is peaceful. And Dudamis and I were talking offline, and yes, we're communicating a little bit more, y'all. Last time I was like, I hadn't talked to him in a while. I didn't know what he was up to, but we've been communicating a little bit more, and being around these guys, having the team that we have, it's you just don't feel crazy. You don't feel crazy anymore. I remember what I was going to say. You were saying that I'm very chill. And I said, about 98% of the time I am. It's the 2%, when I crash out, I crash out for sure. But I think a lot of that has to do with I don't have to wake up in fear. I don't have to wake up, I don't wake up with imposter syndrome anymore. I can wake up knowing that if I have anything going on, I can call somebody. I can absolutely call somebody, and they will know exactly what's going through my mind. It's not one of those things where they're like, well, X, Y, and Z. And you're just like, dude, what? No, I got to go. I have genuine people in my life that are like, yeah, I get it. I get it.
I hear your dog there.
Yeah.
That's cool. Speaking of genuine and speaking of knowing I love seeing your Facebook posts where you have the Facebook posts of you and your dog, man. It's like that's awesome. The relationship that you have going on with your dog is really cool. And man, what you're talking about definitely hits home because yeah, I think that it's important to have these people that you can talk to, people that you can reach out to. And as somebody who's spent a few years actually without really having people that I could reach out to and talk to about things. Um, Ever since we were doing this at the end of 2024 on has been helpful for me, and it's been definitely useful in terms of my mental health. So I think what we need to do is probably have some special guests on here in the near future. But for the time being, and in speaking about the narratives that we did, the Russia, the Ukraine conflict, of course, interest rates with Jerome Powell. One of the things we didn't touch on really too much was the redistricting and stuff that's going on here in Texas, and also with Gavin Newsom in California and all that. But
thank goodness I didn't move, bro. Yo, listen, I'm just gonna keep it real with you guys. I don't know what Gavin Newsom is on right now. I really don't. He's I'm just gonna say it for what it is. He is a politician for sure, who's just doing things to be the opposition, and it's not even the fact that it's against Trump. Like, that's the narrative that's been created. It's Gavin Newsom versus Trump, but I think that's what Gavin wanted. But with that being said, why are we doing this? Why? This just shows more. It just shows more division. Oh, it's Gavin Newsom. from over here in California. I'm like, dude, I'm done. Listen, I'm done listening about California. I'm done with California news. I am, and I'm sorry, like I'm saying it like this, but I already know, like it's free over there, right? It's free, and it's not even about like free as in from a political standpoint of like, oh, it's just a bunch of Democrats in California. It's not even about that. But why is this Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump? Instead, why can't we just have a meeting and say, dude, I'm really not digging what you're doing. And, here's what's going on in my community. Here's what's going on in my state. And, like, where are those words at? Instead, it's just like, nope, can't stand it. Can't stand them. I'm going to go against it. Come on. We don't need that anymore.
Well, that's really to break and to even take that and to break this whole episode down, whether and I think we even talked about this a little bit offline if we didn't talk about it online. I think the entire narrative that we're talking about fighting against is not just political. It happens in Washington, D.C., but it happens in Hollywood. It happens in the news. It happens in, it can happen to you, in relationships with friends that you have because they happen to watch a different news channel than you. And so they disagree about whatever it is. I think that what we're saying is cut through all of that and like really question it. And what is it that actually affects you? Marcus Aurelius would say that you should not pay any attention to the things that you don't have control over. And so, how much of this stuff that we've talked about tonight are really things that we control?
Mm.
And what I control is waking up tomorrow, going to work, doing a good job, taking care of my kids, being a good fiance to my fiance, and being a good son to my parents, all of those kinds of things, being a good friend to my friends. And if I've accomplished those things that are in my control, then like what else matters, right?
Real pen.
That's so fight against the narrative, y'all. Whether you're on
Fight against the narrative.
the right or the left.
Or just right there in that middle. Hey, you know what? Break the right and left norm. Let's do that. Break the right and left norm. Be you. You be right there.
That's it. Don't associate yourself. The less you tie different ideas like that to your own personal identity, if you can disassociate your identity, your personal ego from any of that stuff and say, you know what, I'm independent. I'm not. I think for myself. I am me. I think that is a good. We've always talked about the one thing that we will say we don't push a lot on this podcast at all, but being an individual and having individual thoughts and thinking for yourself. That's sort of been, I think, a continuing theme. I always sound like a broken record, I think, when we keep talking about that.
Me too. But we always have very good conversations and good, good topics. So, I think we just keep chugging along, man, and we appreciate y'all. And what are they leaving us? What emoji are they leaving us?
I think if you can leave if you made it all the way to the end, drop a TV emoji down there in the comments. And I feel like maybe we should definitely reach out to Mr. E, the pseudoscientist, about being on here soon. I really would like to start talking about governance as well as Shaggy Racks. I think that it would be great to have some other voices in here and talk about what's going on with Cardano, because we are a Cardano project, and I think that'll be an interesting thing to dive into here soon. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think a fight for Cardano Part 2.
Definitely, definitely. Let's do it. And well, until next week, brother.
Until next week, man. Thank y'all for joining us once again.
Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? Yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson. He got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion. Your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can